Hello, my name is James Hunter, and this is my 2 cents channel where I talk about topics from physical fitness, wellness, and just topics I may want to discuss. And today I'm going to do a video about Batman. That's right, I'm going to do a video about Batman, the movies in particular. I'm not talking about the TV shows, animated series, anything like that. And you may be asking, well, what does that have to do with fitness or some of the other topics I discuss? Well, actually, it does. I'm going to talk about why in this the video I'm doing today about Batman. So as the title suggests, the physical fitness of Batman in the comics, like basically what was Batman's physical stature, his physical abilities. He didn't have any superpowers, but he is at the peak of human performance as described in the comic book. So I'm gonna get more into that. So what does that matter as it relates to the talented actors who've played Batman over the years? I remember Michael Keaton, I think it was 89 or thereabouts when I was still in high school, getting ready to graduate high school actually. And I remember when that came out. Michael Keaton, by the way, is about 5'9" tall. He's not a real tall guy. I'm about that height myself, give or take a little bit. So I'm not calling anybody out on how tall they are to make fun. This is not a dig or a personal attack on actors. It's just more about a discussion in terms of how much should it matter in terms of the physical stature and the physical fitness, if you will, of an actor if they're going to play somebody such as Batman or a superhero. So like I said, yeah, Michael Keaton, when that movie first came out, we were just excited. We're going to get to see Batman on the big screen, a motion picture, a movie, if you will. So didn't really pay attention until I got older. I'm like, man, Michael Keaton's not very tall in this movie. He's not a real big guy either. I mean, this guy was Beetlejuice first when I was growing up. So you got to understand the perspective back then. But it didn't matter. We were excited to see Batman on the big screen. So fast forward as they were different actors that played Batman. And I'm going to go through them one by one here in a minute as far as how tall the actors were. So should it matter when an actor is selected to play somebody like Batman? A lot of times people will say, well, if it's a famous actor that has star power, that alone will get people to come to the box office. Well, I have to slightly disagree because I don't agree with that 100%, because people who go to see movies that are inspired by comic books, Batman, whether it's DCU or Marvel Cinematic Universe and so on, people, the comic book fans, when they go to see a movie for Batman, Superman, whatever the hero is that the movie's about, they have a standard that's going to be based on their knowledge of the comic book. They want to see some justice done to the comic book, at least an effort made to have some respect towards that end. That's why the MCU was successful. It's real good at being as true as possible to the comics and so on. But also the physical attributes of the actor. I know, not to get too far off topic, because this is about Batman. You can look at the Marvel with Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is about 6'2". Well, Wolverine in the comics, I think, is like 5'5" or 5'6". Not real tall in the comics. So, anyways, let's move forward with the Batman video and some of my thoughts and opinions. So, before I start pulling up pictures about each actor and the various Batmans over the years, I'm going to go ahead and read, and off of my iPhone. You probably can't see it with the camera and the glare. I'm going to read off my iPhone from superherob.com as far as the description of Batman's physical abilities and powers. And also you can look at Wikipedia too. I'm going to post the pictures up here in this video so you can follow along with me. So let's get right to it. What's the comics say about Batman? He is a human being, so he's not super powered, but he has peak human conditioning. Through intense training, specialized diet, and biofeedback treatments, the Batman represented the pinnacle of human physical prowess. His physical attributes exceeded that of an Olympic athlete, level athlete that has ever competed. Strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, and coordination were at peak human perfection. Batman began his physical and mental conditioning when he was 11, and then intense physical training and weightlifting at the age of 12. He has mastered full body control by the time he was 18. Wayne abstains entirely from drink and alcohol, though he presented Bruce Wayne, his alter ego, as a borderline alcoholic. He created the illusion by drinking ginger ale and pretending it's champagne. So Batman refuses to drink. His drink was directly related to keeping his body in absolute best shape. Bruce Wayne, since the age of 15, has created a strict diet to enable his body to develop and operate at its most proficient, along with biofeedback treatments using portable and non-portable machines to stimulate muscles to contraction. So Batman has performed amazing physical feats due to his superior physique. He engaged in an intensive regular regimen of rigorous exercise, including aerobics, weightlifting, gymnastics, and simulated combat to keep himself in peak condition, and has often defeated opponents whose size, strength, or other powers greatly exceeded his own. He has spent his entire life in pursuit of physical perfection and has attained through constant intensive training and determination. So as you can see here, uh, definitely describes Batman as a human being at peak physical condition. Okay, so here's something I've heard of the this Robert Pattinson, who's going to be the new Batman in the Batman movie that's coming up, is one of the people that are kind of like they've critiqued the video saying, well, Pattinson looks small, from the Twilight series. Now Pattinson is about 6'1" tall, so Batman in the comic books is 6'2". So 6'1", he's not too far off there. Christian Bale, 6 feet tall, so is Val Kilmer, and I'm gonna get more into the rest here in a little bit. But the point is, as far as people are saying, well, this is a year one Batman, right? You can't expect him. He's not like Batman after a few years experience of in full training mode where he's more jacked. Well, I have to disagree because you just heard me read right here that Bruce Wayne started weightlifting at about age 12. That's not far-fetched. I was about 13 when I started working out. So he's already been working out according to the comics since 12, 13 years old, been training his body and so on. I don't know about you, but if you have experience of most athletes in high school, if they've been working out since 12, 13, by the time they're 18, 19, 20, they're physical specimens. They're in good shape. Secondly, because Batman is described, Bruce Wayne, at the peak of human condition, he's probably logically somebody of good genetics. He's 6'2" tall, so you can expect his physical stature to be very impressive. So as far as this critique about people trying to say, don't be too hard on Pattinson for him not necessarily being a real big dude because it's year one Batman, well, the comics tells a different story. Secondly, if you look at the movies, let's go to the movies for the example with the Nolan series of the Batman trilogy. Batman Begins. Christian Bale, 6 feet tall. If you look at him, he got in good shape. He worked out. He got pretty jacked for that movie. And his personality, just as a person, an actor, he's kind of has this energy where he just looks like somebody who would whoop your ass. He's kind of an intimidating kind of a guy. So his stature and physical presence, it communicates that. At least it was believable to me. People can criticize him for how his voice sounded, that gravelly type voice he did in Batman Begins and throughout the trilogy. But physically, the fight scenes, he was impressive when he did the training in Batman Begins. He was in good shape, physically believable, in other words, as somebody who had the stature of a Batman-like type character. So that technically is a year one Batman because it's an origin story and Batman Begins, as the title suggests. So that wouldn't have probably gone over too well. Christian Bale came in being really skinny, right? He's adjusted his physique and body for other roles that he's famous for, but he understood that he was going to play Batman, and he respected that, and that's why I respect actors like him, that they're not just looking at their ability as an actor in terms of their emotion, communicating emotions, the affect, body language, and so on. He takes it to another level. It's like, no, I want to physically look the part as well. Christopher Reeve for Superman the movie, was that 77 or 78? He was a skinny guy when he auditioned for that role, and they were going to put him a padded suit, but he said, no, I don't. He goes, I want it to be me in the suit. So he started working out. A lot of people may not know that. A lot of the younger people, he worked out, built himself up as far as his muscularity to where he didn't need a padded suit. That's all him in the suit. So anyways, so yeah, so there you go. There's the criteria, if you will, for Batman. And his strength, by the way, and this is per the comics, his peak human strength, he engages, as I mentioned, an intensive exercise program. And because of his strength, like all other physical attributes, it's at the peak of human perfection. Now, according to the comics and this information right here, he's been shown to bench press at least 1,000 pounds. That's pretty freaking incredible, right? There's people alive today who can bench press 1,000 pounds. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're pretty freaking big and jacked. So anyways, it's the comics, so you got to take that into consideration. But that's what's That's here, and you'll see it up here. I have it posted for you to look at. So you can go look at Wikipedia. It's pretty much going to talk about his skills training, martial arts, combat. You get the idea. He's an athlete. Batman is an athlete, and somebody who's going to have that physical stature, those abilities, there's going to be a reasonable expectation that their physical stature is going to be congruent with that, and it's going to correspond to that. Now, I realize that you're dealing with a certain pool of actors that are going to be talented enough to play these character roles. So you're not going to get somebody who looks physically perfect specimen like an actual professional athlete. I understand that. Although sometimes professional athletes have become actors. But Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, so if you can find somebody like that who's also a good actor, has that balance, that's great. So I give a lot of credit for actors that actually train themselves and get themselves in good shape. So I want to go ahead and start talking about the physical stature and the heights of the actors who've been in the movies over the years playing Batman. Just my opinions. Again, this is not like making fun of these actors or disrespecting them. It's just in terms of how close were they, in other words, to the Batman in the comics and how they pulled it off and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my photos that I pulled up from Google, and I'll probably, I might even insert some more as I go. Okay, so here we go. Looking at photo number 1, I'm starting with Michael Keaton. Here he is. Michael Keaton is Batman. He's confronting the Joker, played by Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson also wasn't very tall, probably close in height to Michael Keaton. 5'8", 5'9". And so as you can see right here, I think the costume was pretty cool for that time period. As I mentioned, I was in high school when this came out, and I was really excited. And so I was just, excited to see Batman in a movie. I wasn't paying attention to necessarily the fact that he's barely 5'9". And if you look, he's not he's a thin guy. He's skinny. He doesn't have any type of thickness that you would see in somebody who had a significant amount of muscularity to be able to do the things that Batman does. So, but nevertheless, it was a good movie for back then. Michael Keaton, I think he was a good Bruce Wayne. But again, he's just not physically up to what I think the standards would be to play Batman. It's like you're not going to get someone who's a horse jockey to play Michael Jordan, right? If there's a movie about Michael Jordan. So anyways, let's go ahead and let's go to the next photo. So here he is. He's in his bat cave. You can see the Joker on the screens in the background. So that's him standing by himself, and even without somebody standing next to him, I can just tell he's not a big guy. He's not that tall. If you ignore the I guess the bat ears or the horns on that mask, and just look from, I guess, his forehead down, he's just not a tall guy. But the suit is cool, and actually, as compared to what we had seen before of Adam West and I guess the pajama suit he wore, this was a big improvement back then. So Michael Keaton, he was funny in Beetlejuice. I think he was even in the movie DC Cab and some other stuff. I like Michael Keaton. I liked him as the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. And I hope to see more of him, in other movies. Good actor. I liked him, and actually was the remake of RoboCop. He played the bad guy. And he's good in that. So anyway, so there's Michael Keaton, the first Batman in the motion picture in the movies. So after Michael Keaton, we get Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer and George Clooney. I'm talking about both of them. So Val Kilmer is about 6 feet tall. And you can see this photo of him for that movie in that time period. He's a medium-sized guy. Not necessarily a slouch, but he's just kind of. I'd say he's kind of in the middle there. He's not horrible, and but he's not the greatest either in terms of somebody that you would think is as the comics describe Batman to be, someone who is better than any Olympic athlete to have been, that kind of strength and so on. Somebody who can physically perform the feats of strength that Batman has is going to have a bit more muscle on him, in my opinion. Just real quick, as far as what I think about the here's Val Kilmer again. I'm not sure if that looks like Nicole Kidman or not, but she must be like slouching down or bending down. Yeah, she probably is, because she's a tall lady. She's about 5'8", maybe 5'9". but she looks a lot shorter, and I think she's bending over here. But there's Val Kilmer again. I actually like this photo of him with the suit. I think that's a good suit picture. So, all right, there he is again. Again, a 6 foot tall Batman, not too bad. So what I was gonna say before I started talking about the suit and how tall he was next to the actress there is that with George Clooney, Val Kilmer, in my opinion, I don't know, these were just kind of like the generic Batman movies. I mean, they were okay. Arnold Schwarzenegger played Mr. Freeze, the villain, with I think it was the one of George Clooney in it. So it was just one of those movies, and both of those with Val Kilmer and George Clooney. It's just, I don't know, it just seemed too campy, or just too I don't know. It just was more for kids than the adults, if you will. It didn't really have as much of the Dark Knight feel, or Batman being a rugged guy that would, while sophisticated, someone who has that dark side of him that will beat your ass down, the criminals and so on. Michael Keaton was pretty good. I mean, he kind of conveyed that loner type guy, secretive, mysterious, and so on. But it was the first one really made as far as on that scale. But when you got into Val Kilmer and Clooney, I don't know. To me, those are just, I don't really think about those really in the Batman series of the movies. I just kind of skip over them. Nothing against the actors, but George Clooney, so he's about 5'10", 5'11", depending on what sources you read. I see more about closer to 5'10" mark. That's taller than me, so it's not necessarily a real short guy. But Batman in the comics is that he's 6'2", weighs anywhere between 220 to 230 pounds, depending on what literature you look at. The older Batman up to 250 pounds. So you're talking about somebody who's going to has agility, is athletic and strong at the same time. So those sound like reasonable numbers, 220, 230, and so on. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who at his peak was probably more like 6'1" and a half, and in shape, like when he did bodybuilding where he was all ripped and really muscular, was about 225 to 230 pounds. So that sounds about right. You could have a lot of muscle, not way too much, and still kind of have that balance in terms of being athletic. So there's George Clooney, Bruce Wayne, Batman. He's kind of, I don't know, I think Val Kilmer is actually, from a physical stature standpoint, was better than George Clooney. George Clooney is just a bit smaller. Doesn't really look like somebody who would be athletic. Somebody that is going to be beating criminals' asses, in other words, right? So, okay. And there he is again with the nipple suit. Another thing I try to forget about. All right. So that's another thing. Sometimes these actors rely on the suits too much to kind of convey musculature. So, and there he is again one more time. This is I don't know what they're trying to do with this suit. It kind of reminds me more of like freaking Thundercats or something, man. It doesn't seem like Batman to me in that photo. All right. So here we go. Christian Bale, 6 foot tall. I was talking about Christian Bale earlier as far as his commitment to roles. I mean, he's got movies, saying it's The Machinist or one of those where he gets really scrawny and then he gets buffed up for Batman Begins, right? So he committed himself to that training to bring himself up physically, to have some stature, to be convincing in that role. It'd be like kind of like casting Pee Wee Herman to play Batman, someone like skinny like that, who's ridiculous looking. I mean, how believable would it be to cast an actor like that and they're like beating up criminals? It just wouldn't have any credibility. I mean, who would go watch that? So there's got to be a reasonable threshold or standard that an actor, in my opinion, needs to meet to make a good Batman or other superhero characters, right, for that matter. So Christian Bale, I think the Batman Begins, this is a suit from Batman Begins. His suit was modified for Dark Knight and then Dark Knight Rises and the trilogy. So he just looks like someone who's edgy, who's got a dark side. He's, somebody who's, you don't want to mess with him, right? In my opinion, I thought he looked intimidating when he was confronting or fighting criminals. His voice aside, I know some people didn't like the voice, but everybody has an opinion on that. Here he is again. I think that's an impressive look as Batman. He looks tough. Doesn't look like he's too like a Ken doll look or a pretty boy look. He looks like you don't want to be overkill. I mean, you can be a good looking guy, I guess, and still be tough. It's almost preppy, I guess, is the word I'm looking for, right? He's sophisticated, intelligent, good-looking, smart guy, but he doesn't come across as someone who's real preppy, right? He's a tough dude. All right, here's Christian Bale. Yeah, look at him here. You know, his chest is got thicker, his arms. He put on some muscle for this movie. He put on some mass and size, and that to me, yeah, that's respectable. I mean, if you see somebody like that and they know martial arts, and you're told that this person, you know, is a crime fighter, this and that, or they're playing that part, you know, yeah, that can be believable. You know, it's something it meets a reasonable threshold in terms of physical stature. So he's 6 foot tall. You probably put them in these costumes they wear. If they're wearing boots, you know, it may boost them up a bit more. So they may actually be a little taller than that, than their actual height. I'm sure they are in the movies. Boots can make you, you know, a couple inches taller, depending on what type of heel you have. So here he is again. I like the suit in this one too. I know the mask changed with the neck part so he could turn his head easier in the sequels. So yeah, I think he was above average Batman in terms of the physical stature. He wasn't the full 6'2" like in the comics, but I think so far up to this point, with the movies being made about Batman, I think Christian Bale is physically the best Batman in terms of believability as somebody who looked like a badass, who could kick your ass, just a tough guy. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, watching somebody thinking, man, that guy wouldn't be able to beat some ass in real life, right? So he up to that point, in my opinion, had done the best job so far in terms of meeting that criteria, and he's a good actor too. All right, there he is again. He's in training with the League of Shadows with Liam Neeson's character, and again, you can tell, yeah, he looks tough. He looks physically built. So I was glad to see that when I saw the movie. All right, let's go to Ben Affleck, all right? And this is the Batman versus Superman. He's on the far right. So Ben Affleck is about 6'4" tall. So he's actually taller than the Batman in the comic books. But, you know, that's all right. I mean, I guess if you're going to if you're going to err on the size of maybe being off a bit, then go with a little taller, a little bigger. But considering that he's casted with other actors that are pretty good height. I think Henry Cavill's about 6'1", thereabouts. Gal Gadot's a tall lady. So because he's cast, Jason Momoa, Aquaman, he's 6'3", 6'4". So because he's cast around other tall people, then you know, it works. It works well. So people criticized Affleck in the beginning, and I was kind of a little bit like, well, I don't know. Could I see him being Batman? Will be a good role for him. Well, right off the bat, I thought to myself, just trying to be an optimist and being positive, I said, well, for sure, one thing's for sure, he's definitely going to be the biggest Batman on screen to date. 6'4" tall. You know, he's going to tower over people. He's taller than Superman, Henry Cavill. And when he comes out of the Batmobile and they have that first confrontation, you can see how big and menacing he looks. I mean, you know, people criticize the suit and so on, but to me, here's a picture of him working out. So Ben Affleck did work out with a trainer to get in shape for this for Batman versus Superman. So he, you know, I would say, even though he's I don't know, you know, I give him as far as to date, he's objectively the biggest Batman. Christian Bale physically got built up pretty good, but I would have to say Affleck kind of takes over here and becomes to date the biggest, you know, Batman on screen, and look pretty menacing. I'm gonna talk more about that. So the suit, here it is again. When he comes out of that Batmobile, he looks pissed off. When he's fighting criminals, I mean, he definitely does that dark, edgy look, if you will. He's pissed off. He's got a dark side. I think Ben Affleck did a good job with that, and I think he was a good Bruce Wayne as well. So here he is in the warehouse scene, and that, to me, for me anyways, that scene in the movie, and I'm actually going to play it here in a second, that's, for me, it was the first time I really felt like this is the best Batman as far as from the comics, seeing it in a movie. Christian Bale had a warehouse scene too on the docks, which was pretty cool. I thought it was awesome for the time. He's got some good fight scenes in Dark Knight Rises, you know, when he comes back after, you know, almost dying and so on, broken back and all that. So anyways, those fight scenes were good too, but this warehouse scene where he just busts in there and takes on all these guys, and him looking as physically big as he does, and is he's like a force of nature, if you will. I think that was, to me, probably the best Batman fight scene I've seen to date. I'm gonna go ahead and play that scene real quick. Now, could you see a small actor like Tom Cruise, for example, pulling this off in this scene right here? I mean, nothing against Tom Cruise, but he's a shorter guy. It just wouldn't be the same. But Ben Affleck, he's a 6'4", he's a big dude. So in this scene, I mean, yeah, he's a force of nature. He's a menacing, scary looking dude. It's believable. It conveys that, I guess, that image, if you will, of the presence of Batman as, at least the one that I get an impression of from the comic books. So again, when you see him handle these criminals in this warehouse, it wouldn't come off the same if he wasn't as big as he is. It just conveys a whole other type of impression. Like right now, he's looking down at the guy. He's a big guy. If he was a shorter person, it just wouldn't have the same effect. So I think y'all get the idea as far as my points I'm making. I couldn't play Batman in the movies. I'm not tall enough. I don't have that kind of height to to look that imposing or to pull it off. If I was in a Batman costume, I'm like a guy my height. It just wouldn't work. You're fighting crime and criminals, and like you saw in the first photo I showed of Michael Keaton as Batman trying to hold the Joker up. I mean, it's almost ridiculous. They look like, not to be mean, but it look like kids. They don't look like grown men, superheroes fighting crime and so on and so on. So it's just something I've thought about over the years, and I hear other people make comments sometimes. I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts and opinions. Is that something you always thought was important, or you don't think it matters? Can you just get any actor? For example, I use the example of Tom Cruise, who's probably about 5 feet 8 tall. I mean, heck, Sylvester Stallone's not a tall guy. What if you got him? And Mel Gibson, he's not tall, right? So what if you got a lot of these actors who are good actors, but are short people, to have played Batman and Batman versus Superman? Would it have been this same movie, regardless of what you think about the movie itself? But as far as the fight scenes, if you will, that warehouse scene I just showed you, would it be the same? I don't think so. There has to be a reasonable threshold that needs to be met in terms of criteria if you play certain roles, regardless of how good you act. Yes, you want someone who can act, but you need to be believable and convincing. Tom Hardy played Bane. I think Tom Hardy's maybe 5'9" at the most, so he's shorter than Christian Bale. So I'm sure they shot from angles. There's a scene where Bane is telling one of the other antagonists, do you feel like you're in control? And then he breaks the guy's neck. Well, he was standing up on a step, if you notice that, and the other guy's kind of like in a sunken living room area, so it looks like he's looking up to Bane. So these type of tricks are used sometimes, at least that's my observation, for shorter actors in these roles. So these are just some of my thoughts. Just one more time, Michael Keaton was 5 feet 9, 5'8" to 5'9". Val Kilmer, 6 foot. George Clooney, 5'10", maybe 5'11". Christian Bale, he was another 6 foot person, like Val Kilmer. Although I think he was more built than Val Kilmer, did a better job than Val Kilmer as Batman. Ben Affleck, to date, the tallest Batman. Even Adam West wasn't that tall. I think Adam West was a bit shorter, 6'2", maybe 6'3" at the most. And then Robert Pattinson from the Twilight series, he's built at 6'1", so he's close in height. May work. I don't even know if he's maybe he has been working out with a personal trainer or something to kind of gain some weight, put on some size. And this photo they released, it's just a first photo, a first look, and he's in a costume. It doesn't show too much. And my understanding, the movie's in production right now. So I hope to be surprised. I hope this guy kind of does like a Christian Bale, right, and gets in shape, builds himself up. He looks like he could probably do it. He looks fairly lean in the Twilight series. Lean people tend to do well when they work out. The muscle they gain is actually more pronounced looking, more noticeable. So he'd probably do real well with that. So if you have any thoughts or opinions about what I just talked about in this video, drop them below. If you like the video, like the video. Maybe you disagree, and if you do, tell me why you disagree. Tell me why you don't think it matters for an actor to have a reasonable amount of physical fitness and physical stature to play Batman or any other number of superheroes, right? What if instead of Christopher Reeve playing Superman, we had Burt Reynolds with a beer gut? Burt Reynolds is a short guy too. That's as far as another short actor. I mean, come on. So it matters more for certain roles that you're playing. So it's what it is. I keep going on this topic, but I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I appreciate it. If you subscribe, I appreciate the support. I'll continue to make more videos. If you came here just because of the Batman video, what you'll notice on my channel is I do videos about physical fitness, mental health, wellness, topics, kind of, a variety of topics you'll get from me. And sometimes just my thoughts and opinions on different things, kind of like my Batman video today. So until I make another video, y'all take care, and I hope you're having a great week. Thank you.